Okay, I was just trying to get started on Facebook Live, but it doesn't seem to be working. So this is going to have to be recorded, and then I can share it on various places in Facebook. And so anyway, we'll go with that. We're going to start with the screen share, the slideshow, a brief slideshow introducing the one rule. Let's see. Okay. Welcome to Raising Happy Kids Zoom Show, episode 30, How the One Rule Can Help You. During this 1-hour Zoom show, I focus on sharing tips and lessons on the one rule to raising happy kids. Each episode has at least one example of the one rule in action, demonstrating how it helps you raise a happy child. Then we have Q&A and discussion. When I talk about raising happy kids or creating harmony with kids, I bring up the one rule. The one rule equals agreement. Agreement equals harmony. Using the one rule means you find agreement. That's the rule. You find a solution that everyone likes. You've found agreement. You've found harmony. Knowing and following the one rule is all you really need to create harmony between you and your kids. In any situation where there are differences that might lead to conflict between you and your kids, use the one rule. I learned this strategy from 3-year-old children. I was teaching them a complex conflict resolution strategy, actually intended for adults, and they taught me this. So don't think you're in for a rough time. It's simple, it's easy, it's powerful and effective. It works. Okay, screen share. Today, I had a couple of questions sent in, and before anything else, I would like to address those. So I'm going to pull them up here. Okay, the question was, today I want to ask how children can develop confidence to speak for themselves. How this one rule can play a positive role with their mental growth. Because one rule is agreement, but does everyone have that ability to share their thoughts? If not, then how can they practice too? Okay. Confidence. Confidence, another term is self-esteem, self-respect. Very important. As I was first thinking about this, I remembered there was a book by someone named Thomas Gordon. You may have heard of Parent Effectiveness Training. He's the author. an originator of that. And one of the books that I read by him, there were studies done, and it was that confidence or self-respect, self-esteem could be the most significant thing that a person can develop and have. I mean, it makes sense. One thing was that when you feel good about yourself and your abilities, you don't hesitate to do what you feel inspired to do. And also this, in the same book, it was saying that when you have that ability, it's part of who you are, then even if you're having difficulties in life, you can overcome them in ways where people who don't have confidence can't. They tend to get pulled down and have much harder time than if they can rise above them and keep open to finding new possibilities of things that work for them in their life. So in terms of the one rule, it's very helpful for helping a child either maintain their confidence if they have it, or even develop it. And that's the first thing I'm going to talk about. Okay, in order for the child to develop this confidence using the one rule, the adults in their life, or at least one adult in their life, needs to adopt it and use it with that child. When you use the one rule, you insist that whoever's involved, let's say you and the child, feel good about whatever decision you come to. Now, if this child has not been in the habit of being part of making decisions, of getting to have their input and getting to say what they like and don't like, that could be, they could definitely have problems with that. It's not something they're used to. It's not necessarily something that they believe is going to be happening for them. And it might take a while. I would say the younger the child, the quicker they will take this on. The older, they've had a lot more practice not doing it. So it might take them a while to develop the belief that this is a possibility for them, and then to actually start doing it. I would say if the child is young, like under 6, chances are they will adapt to it very quickly. As soon as they realize that this is an option for them, that they get to have things go the way they want, and all they have to do is participate in having it go the way someone else wants also. I have found children of that age adapt to it very quickly. And as long as they're past the 2.5 stage, I don't know if we'll talk about that today, but that is a whole different thing. Maybe we will. Maybe we will, because really, the younger you start this with children, the stronger their confidence, their self-esteem is going to be. Not so challenging as if they're already maybe even teenagers. That can be, it can still happen, of course, at any age this can happen, but the younger the child, the easier. So we might go into that today. Let's see, I'm gonna go check the question again to make sure that I cover what she asked. How this one rule can play a positive role with their mental growth. Because it's agreement. Okay. But does everyone have the ability to share their thoughts? And if not, how can they practice? Okay, in terms of practicing, and if they haven't been in the habit, practice is going to be important. So what this is going to mean, or what I think it's going to mean in terms of the one rule, is that they might not be so clear. I know a lot of adults are not clear about exactly what they want. Maybe moment by moment they would be and are. Anyway, but sometimes it can, if you have not been in this kind of habit, if you have not done this, it can be quite challenging to get clear on it. So with the children, having one adult who will always do this with them, of course, if more do, it's better, but at least one, they will get the chance to practice. And let's say that the adult and the child come to an agreement, but it's not really what the child wants. One thing that came up like maybe last week or something was the importance. Yeah, I think it was during last week's show even, was the importance of making sure that everyone involved, let's say now we're talking one adult, one child, that they both know that as soon as they recognize that the decision that's been made is not really agreeable to them for whatever reason, that the stated practice will be that they share this with the other person and come to a new agreement. And this is very important when the one rule has not been the practice, because if it has not been the practice, it will be easier to slip back into what has been the practice. In fact, that's one of the really greatest benefits of the one rule, is that because it is so simple and so clear, it helps overcome past conditioning, past training, past ways of interacting, because it's clear whether the people involved agree with something or not. That's just a simple thing, and that simple thing can make all the difference. So that's another way the one rule helps out, is giving you something to hold on to that makes sure that things are going well for you and others. It's the point of harmony, and it's very clear when you're on that point and when you're not. And it might not always be so clear how to get back to it, but one of the things to be aware of yourself, and with any children, encourage them. If something doesn't feel good, then it shouldn't be in there as agreement. It shouldn't be the thing that you agree on. You shouldn't be agreeing on things that are like, okay, I'll do it. It should be, yeah, at least that. At least not, if it's not like, yeah, that's exactly what I want. If it's not that, at least it's, yeah, that sounds good. Yeah, I'd like that. That feels good to me. And at any point that it changes, that's what I was just talking about. At any point that changes and becomes less than something you feel good about doing, that's when you need to let the other person in the agreement, or people in the agreement, know this is not working for me. Something has to be different, because, and very often in those situations, you'll know why. Even if it's just, well, it just doesn't feel good. The more you explore it with the other people involved, the more the clearer it will become to you what needs to shift. So, in fact, you don't even have to know what's wrong and why it doesn't feel good to you. All you need to do is find out what feels better, and what feels good enough that, yes, I can do this. This works for me now. We fixed it. I'm okay with this, as long as this part is in it. So this is what I would recommend in terms of practicing. Now, another thought just came to me, and there may be between those two people, or those people. Well, today right now anyway, we're gonna stick with the two people. There may be situations between that adult and that child, or even if we're talking in terms of practicing, it could be between that child and someone else, and the adult that's practicing the one rule with that child could help them through some other situations too. But let's say that there's another situation besides the one they are in the middle of dealing with. Then at another time, that adult, for the sake of practice and for the sake of getting things clear with each other, could bring up that situation and say, let's see what we can do to find something that we both like about this, so that we can solve this one too. And then that would be another way of practicing, getting clear on what you like and what you don't like, and being able to express it to someone and finding good results in it, which will strengthen that ability. It's kind of like a muscle. That's what practices are. They help develop whatever it is you're working on. Muscle is just in the physical body, important, but these are other kinds of muscles. The harmony muscle is the one that the one rule is working with to strengthen that ability. And as I mentioned, let's say the child has difficulties with others, that adult could bring those up and get the child thinking about how something might get solved for them. Now, I was thinking that the adult might offer to help mediate a situation with someone else. But then I was thinking that as the child grows in confidence, they might be able to do a lot of this themselves. In fact, they will be able to do a lot of this themselves once they have these good feelings about themselves, their choices, their decisions, their actions, their abilities. It just will spread to other parts of their lives. So if you are in a position where you could do this for children, it could be very helpful. It could, even though it may not yet extend to the other people in their lives, but as they strengthen this part of themselves, it will naturally spread, and you could maybe help in terms of mediating with some of the important people in their lives. Talk about what good results you've had using the one rule. So let me check this again, this question. And make sure. Today, I want to ask you how children can develop confidence to speak for themselves. Well, I think we've touched on that anyway. I think we've gone more than touched on it, and how the one rule can play a positive role with their mental growth. Because one rule is agreement, but does everyone have the ability to share their thoughts? Now, we've talked about that too, how that can, because no, not everyone does have that. Well, everyone has that ability. It may be latent, it may not be developed, it may not be practiced, but they have it. So this would be answering the next part. If not, then how can they practice? So I think we've covered that pretty well today. Now, the other thing that I was going to do, see how it works. I went through, well, at one point I had a newspaper column in a local newspaper where I lived at the time. And every week people would send me questions or ask me in the market or whatever. They would ask me questions or send me questions. At that time, there was no concept of the one rule, but there was the concept of the power of respect, which is quite similar and has similar results, but I don't think it's as clear as the one rule. So what I did was I compiled, I had it for at least a year, this newspaper column. So I compiled the questions, and these were actual questions that actual, predominantly actual parents asked me. And so I thought that I would, okay, so I made a whole listing of these, and I thought I would look through them and answer some of them in terms of the one rule. Okay, let's say, here's one. My daughter is graduating from the 6th grade and will be entering junior high next year. I know our relationship is going to be different. I've already embarrassed her twice last week by intervening in certain situations where, in the past, she would have wanted my support and help. I'm just not sure how to handle these changes in a way that will feel good to both of us. So, well, here's somewhere where the one rule would be really helpful. I'm going to keep this question up here to make sure that I get to it. So if I were the parent, I would let my daughter know that I've noticed what she said here about embarrassing her twice, and explain the reason that I knew in the past she would have wanted me to do what I did, but now I can see that she doesn't. And then come up with something, let her know in the beginning that I didn't want to do this. I didn't want to embarrass her anymore. I do want to be helpful. And if we can talk about this and figure out something that works for both of us so that I won't do this, so I'll understand what has shifted in her, what matters to her now, and I can respond to that. Or maybe we can come up with some way of her letting me know when she does want that kind of help, because obviously now she's transitioning. And during transitions, we tend to be trying out new behaviors, new ways of being, and then still reverting to some of the other ways of being. So there may be times when her daughter would like that kind of help and support, and there are times when she won't. And maybe they could figure out together a way, in fact, I'm sure they could find a way to know what is going on so that the mother can be most helpful during this transition. Now here again, like in the previous question, they may not come to completely satisfying for all time agreement, but if they both agree that if they need to, they will bring things up with each other, like this isn't working for me anymore and things like that, and find new agreements that then this will definitely work for them. And it's a very, okay, let's see. I'm going to go on to another question. Okay, here's another one. When my son goes off for a day or two to spend the night at his friends, he seems to come back home with a "don't bother me" attitude. He doesn't want to clean up his room or do any chores. He blames me for bugging him when he gets home. How can I integrate him back at home in a harmonious way? I also have divorced friends who have similar problems with their children after they have been with the other parent. Okay, well, here the one rule would certainly help out. So if, let's say, okay, well, I was thinking of a couple of things. One, introducing the one rule, and the other, if you're already practiced at the one rule. So let's start with introducing. You can tell your son that you notice that you're aware that he feels like you're bugging him and you don't want to do that, but And this would be good to do at a time when you're both feeling good. But just the introducing part, the one rule, once you've introduced it, once you've started it, it can be done right away, because everyone involved knows that all you're going to do is find something that they like, and everyone else involved, like you and your son, both like. That's the only thing. Introducing that concept is the only thing that takes extra time and focus. But once it's in there, everybody likes it, and all you have to do is say, well, look, let's find something we can both agree on here. Now, it just occurred to me there might be times like let's say he's really tired, or I mean, because you don't know what's going on in the other place, whether how that situation is, if it's just he's stayed up and had a lot of time with his friend, or if there's some kinds of stresses going on in that household. So that he might need some space just to wind down. But that you can find out, like I would say, if you're going to introduce the one rule, it's good to introduce it at a time when you're both feeling good. Now, okay, we'll go over that first. Because I suddenly realized, well, there may be, I was thinking about the times that I've used it. And we'll go over those too. So at some time, maybe another day even, you can let him know that you want to do this thing called the one rule, and the only rule is that you find something that he likes and that you like at the same time. And then there are 3 points that are really helpful to bring out when you're introducing the one rule. Not essential, but helpful. One is that you're both important. And when I did this first, I wasn't introducing the one rule, but actually this is when the children taught me about the one rule. I pointed to each one of them and said, you're important and you're important. And they acknowledged that, they could relate to that. So you can do this, a similar thing in terms of you're important and I'm important, or some people will feel more comfortable saying, I'm important and you're important. And we both deserve to feel good, and we can figure this out. We can find a way for both of us to feel good in this. And that's what I'm committed to. So, that would be how you would start this. You could then bring up what's important to you in this situation, and because that's something that you'll need to bring to this situation. And then figure out what you guys can do so that you get your needs met and he gets his needs met. And the thing is, here again, if you come to an agreement, yeah, that sounds good, we'll try that. It would be also helpful to bring up, if this is not working for you, let me know and we'll fix it. So it might take a few times, or you might be able to get it right away. And the thing is, once you've introduced the one rule and started practicing it, made it part of what you do, you'll be able to deal with issues like instantly, right away, in seconds, minutes at the most. I guess the hardest part will be to be clear on whether this really sounds good or not, and to be clear on what it is you want and don't want. But if the practice is that if some change needs to be made, it can just be brought up and made just like that. Then, because sometimes you might come to a decision and it's only as you're working with this, as you're doing the things, that you realize, oh, this part of it doesn't work for me. Then you bring it up and you fix that part of it. So that should work out. Let's see. Okay. This is another question. How do you figure out what is an adequate amount of chores for a child without having him feel overburdened? Well, I'm sure there could be a number of ways of doing this. I mean, you could do it moment by moment, like you're in the middle of preparing dinner and your child could help with some parts of it. And so you can ask them. That would be moment by moment. And this is, of course, after you've introduced the one rule. So I don't know if you've gotten my book on the one rule to raising happy kids. If not, you might like to do that. I am in the middle of new business launch, so it's going to be at a much reduced price during this time. I'll have to post more details about that, but it's a short book. The exploration part of this, the understanding kind of part of it, is about 50 pages. And there are 12 lessons in terms of the one rule and introducing it and making it part of your life. So it might be something you'd like to get. There's also going to be a much reduced price for the membership site, and the book will be on it, plus loads more, loads of ebooks and videos and trainings and odds and ends of this and that, articles. And anyway, so that might be actually the most valuable thing to get. So then that would get you started on the one rule. Anyway, so the adequate amount of chores, you could do it this, as I was saying, moment by moment, chore by chore, or you could well, for sure you would have a brief meeting. It doesn't have to be formalized and set up, though you could if you wanted. And anything, see, that's the thing about the one rule. Anything that works for the people involved, that works. That works. So I could give you ideas. Like I remember one time I wrote out, I read this in a book, and I don't remember the book at the moment. It was quite interesting, I found. I think it was something about a home executive or something like that. Anyway, I wrote out all the chores that I could think of on cards and put them in a box, and then we chose out of the box which ones we wanted to do. And I was quite surprised that my children took a lot more than I would have asked them to do. So anyway, there are many ways of going about it, but the thing is to find the harmony with them, what they like to do, who they are, what you need, what needs to be done for the whole house to carry on in a way that feels good for all the people. And coming to agreement is what's going to bring this about. So even if a child takes on a lot, they won't feel overburdened if they want to take it on. And if they realize that at any point that they want it to be different, that can happen too. They just have to bring it up. And that goes kind of back to the first questioner. When you're practicing it, then you feel comfortable. And if it's clearly stated and understood, then the child will feel more and more comfortable. And if it's always welcomed when they do bring it up, okay, yeah, let's find, okay, I can see that's bothering you. Let's figure this out so that I get to keep still feeling good. I feel good about the way it is, but you need this different. No problem. We'll figure it out. And then do it. Let's see. Do you have any special hints for dealing with sibling conflict resolution? Well, the one rule. Yeah, introducing the one rule. making it part of your family practice, that it's the way that you relate with the children, that they relate with you, and you help them resolve conflicts in ways that feel good to them. I just needed some water. My throat is getting dry. Okay. So in the beginning, you might need to mediate for them, be like, let's say there's a conflict over something. You might need to be the holder of the thing while they figure out a way to resolve this situation that they both feel good about. And that's the only thing, is that they both feel good about it. Unless it's something that involves you too, but it doesn't seem like it here. So that's the thing with them. The way I learned this practice was with two little girls who wanted the same swing. Well, I held the swing, I held the chain of the swing until we figured out something that worked for both of them. And that's when I came up with the idea. It came to me inside of me. It's not something I practiced before. It just came to me to point out that they were both important, and point to each of them. You're important and you're important. And that made the difference, especially with one little girl. That made the difference. And she came up with a solution, something that worked for them. If you get my book, the story's in there. Anyway, so the one rule can help in all kinds of situations, people interacting with each other. Even, well, anyway, I was going to say even in terms of within yourself, but that's for another day. Well, I hope you all have a great week, and we'll see you next time. Hopefully, we'll be able to be on Facebook Live. Okay, thanks.